This video is about how you look up city or county requirements for arborist reports. And this is more specifically for construction related reports. If you were just doing a basic tree permit, that's really easy to find. You can just Google city/county name plus tree permit. But when it gets to the next level, where you're talking about reviewing plans, putting together arborist reports with or without tree protection plans, those requirements get a lot more detailed and they tend to be buried in different parts of the city websites. So you might be looking at just the website itself. You might be looking under a couple of different departments. You might also be looking at municipal codes. So there's tons of stuff to look for, and if you haven't done it before, it can be pretty overwhelming. So I'll go through my process of how I look through stuff. It's not going to be as comprehensive as it actually could be and should be, because different cities have different complexities of requirements. There's a city near me that has different zones, and for each zone they have a different definition of what a protected tree is. For example, in their downtown region, on any commercial properties, any tree, any species is protected. If you're in the upper, like the ridges, where people can see your property from the lowlands, different requirements there. So once you get the basics down and you start learning how to read code and look through the websites for resources, you'll be able to develop the skill to be more and more refined over time. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't happen and you get comments back on your report saying that you did it wrong, then you just eat the cost and the time of that and you fix it for your client. The first thing you want to find out is if the property that you're looking at is actually in city or the county limits. Even if it's in the address that's in the city, it might not actually be within the boundaries of what that city is in charge of. I'm going to use Redwood City as an example, and it is a city in San Mateo County. It's easier for you to go look on the county website because normally they have things like GIS. GIS is a mapping system. It's short for Geographic Information Systems, and they have a map. They overlay various types of data, so parcel boundaries, streets, utilities, things like that. Your city might not actually have GIS, in which case you might be able to find PDF maps of their city limits, and then you just compare Google Map or something. The County of San Mateo has a GIS program. When you're in the GIS website, what you want to look for is something that is related to parcel boundaries or property records in this case. So I'm going to click into that. Usually there's some options for you to search. Look for something that says search by address. Sometimes you have to edit the name of the address. So you see here I have the full road spelled out and it doesn't like that. So just mess around with it a little bit. It pulls up the property that I've looked for. And if I click on it, usually something pops up. And here it says it's incorporated. Incorporated means that it's incorporated into that city. If it says unincorporated, then I know that it's in the county. And then I'll be looking at the county requirements to figure out what I'm going for. Usually when I look something up for the city, probably the best thing is the city name plus tree ordinance. But you can also see all these other options: tree preservation ordinance, tree removal, permit ordinance, etc. Let's just start with this one. And this gives you an idea of what the city has on their website. Frankly, I just go and open up any link that relates to trees within the city. So this one is about street trees. Street trees may or may not apply to properties if you're working for a private homeowner. What is important about this, here it says for private trees, you do need a permit. And it also tells me that there's a tree preservation ordinance. So I'm going to be looking for that in a little bit. Cities have their tree information under different departments. So oftentimes you'll see something like this, a departments tab. The places I've seen them: public works, sometimes it's under parks. But if you're talking about construction projects, a lot of the time it's under something like community development or planning. For example, this community development, it's split up into building and code enforcement and planning. Here I'm like, oh, okay, code and development standards, maybe that will give me some information as well. These are codes or standards that affect construction projects, and I see here that they actually do list the tree preservation ordinance. So here I'm also going to double check if they have any requirements for arborist reports, if they say anything in particular. I'm not really seeing it. Even though this says arborist report, I know that these are PDFs that are probably tied into other projects. If you wanted to find the municipal code, look through all these headers to find out where it is. I have found it here under City Hall, and here's the municipal code. You really need to get familiar with reading code language because this is what everything else is based on. If the city has different requirements on their website, they always have to conform with the code. If you have questions, if you see some discrepancies between what they're saying and what the code is saying, ask them. The city is required to abide by it. Usually there's a way for you to save a copy. So you can print it, you can save it as a Word document, save as a PDF, etc. But another thing you could do is also look up if trees come up in different places. For example, street trees and plantings, street improvement, street trees, etc. So what I like to do is save a copy of any ordinance that seems to apply, and I save it all in a folder like this. Some people will just refer to the city website and the city municipal code, which I think is good in its own way. You can catch changes that happen in the code, but I personally like to save a copy of it because I take all kinds of notes. I have a couple of things that I found from Redwood City, their master tree list, street tree ordinance, a tree preservation ordinance, and I had also seen a report that they included in their website. And this is the copy of the code that I downloaded from the city website. This is the most important document for me to read. So I'm gonna save that for a separate video where I explain what stands out to me as I'm reading this code and how I organize this information and ultimately use it to prepare a proposal and to put together an arborist report.